Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News. We are a podcast that discusses comic books, movies, TV shows, and we typically feature a beer of the week. If this is your first time joining us, I am Matt. With me is Lauren, and we can be found on any social media platform by searching Hops Geek News. Go ahead, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, we pretty much have it. And on TikTok, I'm going through just talking about my supernatural journey. And also, we are doing
The
kind of
road so
bonus.
far.
Yes. And also we're doing extra bonus episodes about the supernatural journey because it's a big deal on this podcast. We're big deals. And yeah, so go ahead, subscribe to us on whatever podcasting platform, search Hops Geek News, go ahead, YouTube as well. That's a place where we put a lot of videos and shorts and things of that nature. And then drop a 5-star review if that's how you feel. If you want to drop a 1-star, I don't care. Go ahead, drop a review on Apple, Good Pods, Spotify,
I
whatever
care
you
about a
want.
1 star.
Yeah, I mean, I might, my feelings might get hurt a little, but go ahead and do that. But as for the beer of the week, I'm drinking water still. I am not drinking beer this month for stupid reasons. I don't know. That makes me sound like an alcoholic. I'm not. I promise. I'm just not doing it this month. But Lauren is drinking a beer. So Lauren, what are you drinking before we dive into this episode, which we have Frank Martin on this episode? This is episode 150, by the way, which I feel like is a milestone somehow. I don't know. I feel like when
Mm.
you see a number like 150, 200, 100, big deal. So,
That is pretty big. And honestly, it's probably even more because we've had some little bonus ones here and there, done some on Hops
oh
News that we
yeah,
didn't count. But
it's true.
yeah, that is a lot.
We
Look at us.
150 and going strong, man. This
I
is
know. Never
maybe if
would have
we,
thought.
yeah. Now who? Look at us, huh? Look at us. Who would have thought?
No, not my parents. They doubted me. Not true. They're my
My
biggest
parents don't
supporters.
even pay attention to this podcast, so you know what? At least your mom supports us.
Yeah. My dad doesn't listen to the geek one though. He's like, I'm just not into that stuff. I hope that's okay. He likes the beer one. I'm like, it's okay, Dad. So what I'm drinking is a Tripping Animals beer, which I often drink on here, but I still can relate it to Supernatural. I know we're going to save that for the next episode, but this beer is still somewhat themed. It is a sour called Hairy Grandma Fingers, a sour ale conditioned with strawberry, mango, orange, almonds, and vanilla. It's only 6%, and it is actually a collab with Arcane Ale Works. So those are two really good
Okay,
breweries.
man, nice.
And this one is Doral, Florida, which is basically
Yep,
Miami. I know I've talked about them a lot. They have some sweet can
Miami.
art.
Welcome to Miami.
Benvonito al
I like that can
Miami.
art. Actually, that's one of wow. That's really cool. I like that one.
Yeah, so I'm about to take a picture of it and I will definitely post it on the Instagram. And the reason it's supernatural themed is I believe it's season 2. You will get to meet a big bad wolf.
Oh,
What?
exciting.
And that's all I
Exciting.
will say because I now I have to worry about spoilers. I've never had to
That's
worry
true.
about that on
I'm
this
paying attention
podcast
now. It's like when
before.
your kids become sentient beings and you have to watch what you say and you do around them.
Sentient being, that's even a supernatural
Oh.
reference.
My kids have recently gotten into the band Bayside, so I'm pretty excited about that. They've been singing the song "Sick, Sick, Sick," which you might. One of our episodes last summer, the Kenobi finale, I was on Metalcore Nerds with Nick from Bayside, so it's pretty cool.
That's
I love.
awesome.
Speaking of kids, so anyways, I'm having fun. Yeah, it's a good time. We are, like I said, talking with Frank Martin. He's been on a bunch of times. We're talking about P1 Pinnochio. And so before we do that, though, what did we mess up on last week?
So some of the stuff that I just kind of wanted to look into, which wasn't really mess ups, is more supernatural related. So we're going to throw that on our bonus stuff. But going back now 3 weeks. So Chris from Geek Peak Pod posted his favorites of 2022.
They
I got to
did,
give a
yeah.
shout out to Ozark.
I've never watched Ozark.
I'm the worst. Ozark's good. It gets super intense at parts.
Okay.
And I mean, it's Jason Bateman. I
Sure.
really look at it and I think it's not Curb Your Enthusiasm, Arrested Development, but with a serious issues because I feel
Yeah.
like so often Jason Bateman is still like, what the fuck is wrong with everybody? Only instead of it being like absolute ridiculousness, it's Mexican cartel and drugs and shit. So it does have funny parts, but it's a very intense show. It's very good. It's on Netflix, and they did give it a proper amount of seasons. It wasn't an abruptly canceled
Yeah.
Netflix show like so many of them are. And I think that's all I have that is not supernatural related.
Hey, look at that. All right. Yeah, we're saving our supernatural stuff. We are going to be discussing that on a bonus episode. Look out for that. So let's roll into what we've been reading or watching. I've obviously been supernatural. And I'm through episode 16. So some big stuff happens in that episode. We won't talk about it here. But I have been watching season 2 of White Lotus. I'm halfway through that season. I like this season a lot better. They're in Italy in this one at that White Lotus. Everybody
Ooh,
still sucks.
fancy.
Everybody still sucks in
Oh, yeah,
this.
you were
And that,
saying that you don't like any of the characters,
well, that,
right?
I think it's on purpose. It's a character study, right? That's like
Hmm.
HBO's rich white person type character study. So you're not supposed to like these people. They're supposed to make dumb decisions. Aubrey Plaza is in this season,
Mm.
and she's not bad. She has a weird dynamic with her husband. And yeah, no, you're not supposed to be in love with these characters. If you are, then hey, I mean, all the power to you. I just personally think these aren't likable characters, and that's kind of how they're written. The writing is really clever. I'm still really digging this season as a whole. And I do hope there's a season 3. I don't know if there is or not, or what they're going to do, because I'm sure they could. You can just plop a hotel wherever you want and call it the White Lotus. So, yeah,
Hmm.
HBO Max, check that out. I did watch the menu. I watched the
I
menu this past. Oh God,
I did too. I don't know what the fuck that
it
was.
was a super good movie. I thought it was wicked good. So Ralph Fiennes when Anya Taylor Joy. It also has John Leguizamo. It has, oh man, I just blanked on his name. He plays Beast in the X-Men movies, the younger kid. He's in it. And it was a really good movie. It's clever. So Ralph Fiennes plays Fiennes, well, however you pronounce his name. He plays a chef, a world-renowned chef. Everybody, you got to really vie to get to this establishment and eat.
He
And
like the Red Dragon like years ago in that
maybe he was
Hannibal
Voldemort.
movie. Oh
And
yeah, he's
I
Voldemort.
don't remember that movie. He's Voldemort. He's M, the new version of M in the 007s. So he's in a lot. He's a well-known. Every time I look at him, I just picture Voldemort because of his
Is he
mouth.
Made in Manhattan? Oh yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah,
but
he was in the movie Red Dragon, which was like a
oh
prequel to Hannibal.
yeah, yeah,
That's the
yeah.
first thing I ever saw him in. So whenever I see him in anything, I
Hmm.
think of that.
I didn't. Huh. I don't remember that movie, to be honest with you. So I liked it though. It's a very clever film and a really cool play on society. Creepy, not really creepy. It's a suspenseful movie, of course, and it didn't go the way I thought it would go. It had some,
Confusing movie.
yeah. And so, what do you think about it?
I thought it was interesting. I don't know. It was really weird. And it was like, so that Sunday morning, I guess I woke up to a text that you said, like, the menu was amazing.
Yeah,
And then two
yeah.
other random people, like, somebody posted something on Facebook. And I was like, you're the third person I've heard this from today. And he's like, I don't even know what I just watched. He's like, I don't even know if I liked it or not, but it was interesting. And I feel like
Really?
that's exactly how I felt. It
Yeah,
was just so odd and you had no idea what was going on and you kind of understood it a little bit as far as like what was happening and it was somewhat like social justice, I guess, in a
it
way.
was. It was like a social commentary. Yeah, I mean, it was basically all these uppity people who take. You had the food writers. You had these people stealing from their company. You had all of this stuff, and so he was kind of punishing them for their gluttonous activities in the real world. Not, spoiler alert, I guess, but you can kind of get that from just watching the trailers and things like that. But there is a twist, though, in the movie with one of the characters, which I don't want to spoil, and just in case anybody
Yeah.
watches it. So I really dug it, man. I hope people watch. I
I
do.
guess my thing is that's a movie I never in a million years would have watched because like the movie poster and the title of it, I assumed it was going to have to be based like it was based around food, but it wasn't based around food.
Exactly. And it was funny, like all the food tie-ins and stuff were funny though, I thought.
Yeah.
Did you watch anything else?
Not really,
No?
no.
Man,
Josh
it's
has
been
been watching
busy.
Supernatural and Brielle's had friends on. So, I mean, I've not really, though. I did read a Namor Submariner comic book. Actually, literally just read it, which that's been really good. It's only on issue 3, but it's been a fun one. It's like a
Yeah.
dystopian future kind of one. And you got Old Man Namor and Old Man Cap and Old Man Luke Cage and stuff. So that's really good. Like
Yeah.
a bunch of the heroes basically left Earth because the Kree came to Earth to like kill everybody, and a bunch of heroes left to go fight the Kree and never came back. So they're trying to like live in this dystopian future where
Mm.
like they're having issues with even being able to procreate, and there's lots of tension between Luke Cage and Namor because Namor's sometimes he's an anti-hero, sometimes he's a hero, sometimes he's a villain. So he's still, I guess, finding his way and trying to earn some people's trust.
Yeah. Huh, that's cool. Well, we'll dive into some news then. Let's go into some news. A little trailer came out during the massacre that was the college football playoff this week. I know I was watching it anyways, but like a lot of people were watching it, and it was bad and ugly. Georgia killed TCU. They poor Bulldog ate a frog. But Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania had a trailer come out. This showed a really bad. It was all Kang focused, and Kang was there to beat some ass. Like Scott was getting thrown around. There's a big boot and that smashes Ant-Man's mask or helmet, whatever you want to call it. It's all kind of dire. Scott's like, we both just have to lose. Stakes looking pretty good. And the movie is only going to be 2 hours and 5 minutes reportedly. So I hope it is not like one of those movies where we just rush through, but it's going to be action packed and it's going to have a lot of consequences for the way forward, setting up the Kang dynasty, according to Peyton Reed. So I'm me, I'm in the bag. This movie comes out February 17th. It looks freaking amazing. And that's kind of all my news. And I could gush about Ant-Man all day because Ant-Man saved the universe. No big deal.
And at this rate, you'll know that Cassie is in Supernatural.
Ah, I didn't recognize her.
She hasn't shown up yet.
Oh, I was like, did I?
Yeah, no, she doesn't show up much later. But I'm saying at the rate you're going, you might be on that season by the time the movie comes out.
I'm sure I will. So what news do you have?
So Wednesday has been renewed for season 2 on Netflix.
No surprise there.
I want to say no surprise there, but at the same time, you never know with Netflix.
Oh, yeah, it's Netflix.
So yeah.
Never mind.
50 Cent and Eminem are developing an 8 Mile TV series. I thought that was kind of interesting. I liked that movie.
I did hear about that. If anybody, B Rabbit.
And you think Falcon will return and are his parents still happily married? Yeah.
His real name is Clarence, and Clarence's parents have a real good marriage.
I love that. Go ahead and tell them something they don't already know. Oh, there's a new movie coming out, and Mark Hamill's in it. He shared it, and I thought it looked pretty interesting. I watched the trailer. So it's got Bert Kreischer in it, he's the comedian with the big old beer belly who always takes his shirt off. He's pretty funny.
Oh.
And so it looks like an action movie, but it's funny, and it's got those two in it. It comes out Memorial Day weekend, and it is called The Machine. So keep your eye out for that. The Community movie starts filming in June. Did you watch Community?
Never got into it. No, never watched it.
Me neither. I watched the first few episodes, I think, because actually Tim recommended it. And then I never. Yeah, it was funny. It was definitely funny. And it's in the whole, kind of aspect of like The Office and Parks and Rec. You get the same kind of feel. But I just never got sucked into it. And I heard Chevy Chase is not the greatest person on set.
Yeah.
So Dave Bautista, we talked last week about him venturing away from Drax. That's not what he just wants to be known for. So he's actually got another movie coming to theaters February 3rd called Knock at the Cabin.
It looks good. They're preventing the apocalypse. Or are they? I don't know. It's an M. Night Shyamalan movie, so it's got to have some weird twist.
Did you ever see the movie? Was it Time or Old or something? Remember everybody was talking about that movie?
Yeah,
and I never even saw it.
Yet. No, I didn't watch that.
Okay. I think I ended up finding out what it was, but I mean, every now he did Sixth Sense. Every now and then he's got some bangers.
That's true. Signs.
Oh, Signs. That movie creeped me the fuck out. I remember seeing it in the theater and like screaming at when you finally saw the alien. We had pre-partied too. That was probably a bad idea. So Tron at Magic Kingdom is finally opening April 4th. So if you're a pass holder, make sure you got your email notifications on if you want to get the pre-screener to that ride. The final season of Fear the Walking Dead is coming May 14th. I gave up on this show years ago. I don't think I know anybody who's still watching Fear.
I honestly haven't heard anybody, but I heard that the Rick and Michonne series is aiming for 2024 or something like that. And somebody hinted that they could be enemies in that movie series or whatever they're doing.
That makes no sense at all.
Look, that makes zero. What I saw on the internets today, but we'll see.
That would blow my mind and make no sense. I mean, what has he been brainwashed? Is he like the Winter Soldier of The Walking Dead? If that happens, I hate that. But also, so I guess we're just not getting a movie at all. Wasn't that the whole thing? We were supposed to get like 3 movies with Rick, and now they're.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's because people lost interest and the ratings went down or something. I don't know.
I have no idea.
I will be watching the show, but I'm sure shit better not go like that.
I won't watch it.
And that's not what they hinted at the end of the show. All right. If you live in Vegas, this might be exciting, or you visit Vegas quite often, so you might like this. Universal is going to be opening a permanent horror-themed experience in Las Vegas.
Awesome. Yeah.
Universal announced the initial concept will bring to life Universal's massive library of classic horror films, as well as some of their most terrifying
That can be
tales.
cool. That's gonna be exciting.
That is going to be really cool. This Las Vegas entertainment option will offer various immersive horror centric experiences that surround high energy food and beverage spaces by day, and by night, they will be haunting bars and eateries.
Yeah.
Universal's also going to be opening a theme park in Frisco, Texas. So if you live near there, you're getting Universal's like all over the place right now.
Texas. Ugh.
How close is it to Family Business Beer Company?
I don't know. Good. Actually, that could. You know, hold on. We'll hear him out.
I mean, Texas is massive.
I don't know, but this last piece of news you have, fun fact, I actually reached out to this person's contact email and invited them on the show, and I haven't heard it back yet. So here's hoping. I did this like weeks
That's really
ago.
funny. The Library of Congress one that I have,
Yes,
with Robert Garcia. Oh, that's funny.
Yes. So
Well, you can take it then. Yeah.
The Library of Congress often provides special editions of religious texts for lawmakers who swear in at ceremonies. However, they can lend out more than that for swearing in. So Congressman Robert Garcia actually swore in with a copy of Superman by his side this past Saturday. And in addition to the bright classic blue and red suit, the superhero wore a protective mylar covering and traveled with a Capitol Police escort. And Robert Garcia is a self-described comic book nerd, and he borrowed the first issue of Superman's book series from the Library of Congress for the occasion. I love it. I follow him on Twitter. He's a great guy. I don't know anything about his politics. I just think it's cool that, like, you know, in government, there's somebody who's all about something that's good for once, I guess.
Superman. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's hope he actually stands for truth, justice, and the American way. So it's cool. And I saw him swearing. I did reach out to him. So here's hoping a few weeks ago I did that. I know he's busy doing politician stuff, but who knows? I don't know. We'll see. And yeah, so that's all the news we have today. We're going to go ahead and be back in just a moment. We're going to go chat with Frank Martin, the creator of some excellent comic books we read, such as The Last Homicide and Polar Paradox, and now Pinnochio. So buckle up, folks. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, guys, we are back, like we said, with the man himself. He has been on our show quite a few times. You might have heard our episodes on The Last Homicide, on Polar Paradox, Grim Space, all this good stuff. Frank has returned. We're on like this is the Frank universe here. We're past the trilogy series. We're working on the multiverse of Franks. So welcome back to the show. How you been?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me back to talk about all these terrible comics that I put out.
You know, your comic books are fun because they're
Way
sci-fi.
to self-promote.
Yeah. Welcome to the show where comics. No, but your comics legitimately are fun. I love talking about these because I love space. I love sci-fi. And you're big on the whole sci-fi and just thinking outside the box. So I love getting a chance to sit down and chat about this kind of stuff.
Well, thank you. That's what I write, whatever mood I'm in.
How
I just roll the dice, whatever comes up.
It's like, all right, whatever, I'm throwing darts at a dartboard. I have a bunch of things picked out. Whatever it lands on, that's what we're doing tonight.
Kinda, yeah. Keep people guessing.
I love it.
Well, I mean, you're going to be most passionate about what you're feeling. So that makes sense. Because, you know, yeah, we've obviously read a few of your sci-fi stuff, but the first thing we had you on was The Last Homicide, and that was not science fiction at all.
No, that was noir. Well, I grew up liking everything, so gotta write what I like, which is pretty much everything. So I gotta check off all those boxes before I kick the bucket.
It's good too, because then you don't pigeonhole yourself into, I'm good at one specific genre, and now that's what I'm writing on for the rest of my life, and then eventually you get burned out. And how many times do we see that? So I love everything, so I'm going to write about everything, and you can pull from these genres to mix and match as well. Like, it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to doing that. But pro is definitely that I get to kind of follow my own muse and just write whatever's pops into my head. But a lot of people, they build kind of a brand, I guess, on one thing. Mm-hmm. And then once they do that, then they start venturing off into different things. And I went the other way. So it's a bit harder to get people to follow you from one campaign to the next, but it definitely happens. I have people that say one of the greatest things I like about your comics is I never know what you're going to do next, which is kind of keep people on their toes.
You're like, good, because I don't either. It's like a
Well, this
wild
one was, I
card.
feel like, pretty different because in the past, we've had you on for Polar Paradox, and we've had you on for another Grim Space one too, and then the Last Homicide and whatnot. And I read the Hotel Macabre as well, and though I feel like this one was a little bit different because it was seemed like a shorter story, and it was more. I love the comparison. So I don't know if you want to get us started by telling us a little bit about this specific one, P1 Nokia, that you currently have the Kickstarter going for.
Yeah, so basically I took the story of Pinocchio and I have to put it into a space fantasy kind of sci-fi setting. And instead of a wooden puppet, he's a robot, and the general ideas remains the same. He wants to become a real boy, to give our version of Geppetto, whose name is just Petto, we shortened it, to give him the son that he always wants, because he kind of considers P1 Nokia his little companion, his little son, and he thinks he deserves to have a real son rather than a robot. So that's the driving factor that starts him off on his adventure.
Now, I will say the Jiminy Cricket character was my favorite because he was, I would say, the most far from the story, and that's all I will say there because I don't want to
I
ruin too
agree.
much. But I thought that
Yeah,
that one was entertaining.
I mean, a lot of times people, the main Pinocchio version that they have in their heads is Disney, so
Disney.
the Disney version. And in that kind of, he's Jolly Jiminy Cricket, he's a good old conscience. And he has a little bit of a different role in, he might have the same role, but he approaches it much
there,
differently.
there you go.
So
That works.
he was definitely fun. And so the previous Grim Space, which was Jack and the Beanstalk, I did a Kickstarter version, and then I think last week it came out in comic book stores with Scout Comics.
Oh wow,
And,
that's cool.
and so the Kickstarter version was in black and white. The Scout Comics version was in color, and I also the guy that did P1 Nokia, the artist, I commissioned him for a short 2-page epilogue that was thrown in the back of the Scout version of Jack and the Beanstalk. So it's a little bit of a segue into the spinoff. So you get to finally meet Petto, and you meet J1 Mini in that epilogue, and that's when they actually acquire the robot. They actually get him. So it's a good epilogue to that story, and kind of so that if you read one and it picks up, you're not like, how did this robot get with these people? It kind of explains that a little bit.
Do you think you'll grow that universe a little bit with some more space fairy tale kind of things?
Yeah, I'm working on a actual 3-issue arc, which would follow the crew of the Beanstalk, which is the crew from the Jack and the Beanstalk story. And it's their next adventure. So it's their follow-up. So yeah, and I love the good thing about this is that I can plant seeds for stories down the line in the stories that I'm doing now. So it's kind of like I never have to finish one and then figure out what I'm going to do next. It's kind of like all the breadcrumbs are there. I just have to kind of pick them up and run with it.
Nice.
So what led you kind of to revisiting these tales of Jack and the Beanstalk and Pinocchio and things?
I like reimagining things, just like as a writer, just taking old stories, twisting them, putting new spins on them, and putting my own personal touches on it. So that kind of idea always resonated with me. And I don't know, everybody, it seems to be a hot commodity these days. I see tons of Wizard of Oz spinoffs and remakes on Kickstarter. So I wanted to kind of do something similar but different, in that I wanted to give it. I don't have any space fantasy stories, anything like a Star Wars, which I love, and so this was my way to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
I mean, our generation, as we're getting older, obviously, the millennials and I always forget what generation everybody is. All the kids who grew up or were born in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that are now like adults and have children, it's like we're still part of us clinging to our childhood. And like that study just came out where more adults are buying toys now than ever. So I think it's, very smart to take these childhood stories and put an adult spin on it. And yeah, we've seen that in Once Upon a Time. We've seen it in Grimm and Supernatural and all sorts of these dark Snow White movies and stuff too. So I think that's kind of cool. And then you threw it into space.
The thing I love about this is, I know you were calling it like an adult story, and certainly it could be enjoyed by adults, but a lot of my stuff has been more adult oriented than I want. So this was a good opportunity to do something that I think kids can actually read and kids can actually enjoy. And even when I was speaking to the editor of Scout, he was like, "Do you want to do this for our all ages line?" And I'm like, I mean, it could work, but that's not really what it is. I kind of liken it to the first Star Wars movie. You know, it's made for kids. You got blasters and laser swords, but at the same time, I mean, they blow up a planet and kill billions of people. But just because you don't see it on the
We sweep
screen,
it under the rug. What are you talking about?
yeah, exactly. It's not.
Nobody
It doesn't
died. You
really.
didn't see them die.
Yeah, kids don't really. It doesn't really resonate with kids that they just committed mass genocide on a planet.
Right.
So
That's
that's
the only
kind of
movie where you see like blood though, because they actually cut off the arm and it bleeds.
Yeah.
so. Yeah, that's kind of the tone I wanted to take with these grim space stories, and that they have big ramifications, and adults can like the stakes that are involved, but at the same time they're light and they're silly and they're fun. And so if I'm at a comic convention and a family is walking past my table, I actually have something I could show them rather than a horror story that like werewolves biting people's heads off. So it's nice to diversify in that regard.
Right. So in the vein of Star Wars, then I gotta ask, did that influence the asteroid field monster in Pinnochio?
Yes, and there's a couple of Star Wars references in the first story too. They're all over the place.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So I kind of I merged the whale from Pinocchio. I merged the whale from Pinocchio with the asteroid monster with Empire Strikes Back. So that's kind of my version of them.
That was my exact thought. As soon as I saw
Now I
that,
can
was
picture
like,
that.
oh
Yeah.
here we go. And
I took for the artist. I took a screenshot of it and I put it in the script. I said, "This is what I'm thinking of."
That's excellent. I love it, and it's a great reimagining. You put your own spin on it. You add different things. They're in space, but yet this robot boy has these aspirations of other things. But then J1, he's not the cricket friend, the angel on the shoulder, because he actually does some badass stuff in this as well, and kind of saves, without spoiling, but he's kind of a badass in this, and that's what I really enjoyed. Is wow, you kind of get a lot of things from all different pools, and you can see these influences in the art, as well as the art was really well done as far as the aliens and things that you see, because we don't just see humans and robots, we see aliens and monsters, and it's great.
Ramiro is the artist, and he did a great job. Especially there's a scene where there's just a crowd of people, and I said just make them aliens. And as an artist, like, you kind of roll your eyes at that. Like, yeah, it's easier just make them all different kinds of aliens. But he has to come up with different designs for all these aliens, and he did a fabulous job, kind of designing them all, from the blue fairy character to her minions to some aliens that they find later on inside the giant whale monster's body. So there's so many different character designs in here that he knocks it out of the park with.
Yeah.
And was it a different artist than the first Grim Space?
Yes. So Dan Scalisi was the artist on the first Grim Space. He's going to be doing the follow-up 3-issue story. And because he's my Grim Space partner in crime, he does the variant covers for this issue. So he's still involved in it.
Nice.
So are you planning on more stories with this character, or what's the plan?
So far, I don't have any more stories with Pinocchio in mind. Although there's one key aspect of the Pinocchio mythology that I did not include in this story. And it was his, it's not really a spoiler. He doesn't have, his nose doesn't grow when he lies. That's like the Pinocchio thing that I didn't include in this. I thought, like, should I include it? It's kind of his trademark thing, but I didn't want to force it in there because the story was built and it seemed like the pacing was right. And if I tried to force it in there, it wouldn't have worked. So that's kind of one of those little hanging threads that I feel like I missed out on. So if I ever do a follow-up with him, I would want to include that in some way.
Honestly, I didn't even notice it. I didn't feel like it took away from who Pinocchio is at all.
Yeah, it wasn't an essential part of the story. That whole big moral journey from the original Pinocchio was that he couldn't lie because it's more than just like getting what you want. And that aspect of the story wasn't here. It was something else about trusting people and trying to make people happy when you don't need to. It was more of the moral for the story, which I think that would have diluted it a little bit.
Oh yeah. I'm with Lauren. I didn't I noticed the nose, but it didn't take away from the story because I wasn't like, when's his nose growing? When's his nose? It was more of like, there's there's actually a story being told here, and you're catching the morals and kind of almost that be careful what you wish for type thing, and following certain roads and avenues and trusting. And so I felt like you were able to focus on that without detracting of like, where's his nose? You know what we came for in this Pinocchio story.
You're letting us down. His nose is not growing.
Like, what the hell? I must have missed a page. Where is it?
I must have missed a page. Well, when you first started to say there was something you didn't include, my brain went to him getting drunk and turning into a donkey. Because that scene just always cracks me up in the Disney one. It blows my mind that these kids went and got drunk and turned into jackasses. I just find that hilarious.
I thought it was funny that I started making this book years ago. Not even say years ago, but maybe a year and a half ago, a while ago. It's been in my back pocket. And then they had earlier this year the Disney Plus version of Pinocchio dropped. Yeah. And then Guillermo del Toro dropped his own stop motion Pinocchio. I'm like, what the hell? It's like Pinocchio fever going on. And now I got a Pinocchio Kickstarter running. So it's, yeah,
hey,
I guess.
Strike while the iron's hot. If there's a lot of Pinocchio going on, be like, yeah, you like those Pinocchios? But bam, what about this one?
What about a robot Pinocchio? You haven't seen that one before.
You haven't seen Pinocchio in space. They're telling the same story Disney told us, just less murdery and dark. Well, this one is going to blow your mind, brother.
Yeah. I mean, that's where everybody ends up anyway, right? Leprechaun, Jason Voorhees, everybody goes.
That's true. Even what is it? Fast and the Furious even went to space.
That's true. That is very true. I mean, we got Jason X. Now we had, the last Fast and Furious. They went up into space and they came right back down.
Sharknado 3 ended up in space.
The greatest.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet. You're spoiling it.
Oh, God.
Oh, there's so much more to look forward to.
Cinematic masterpieces that are, but it is true. Everybody goes to space. Space, the final true frontier of where can we go when you're out of ideas? Go to space.
Yeah, right. When you're out of sequel ideas, but yeah. But if there's anything else you want to say for Grim Space, because then I would love to talk a little bit about Last Homicide.
No, I mean we covered a lot. Pinocchio is a spin-off, so it's not like you lose anything if you haven't read the first issue. So I love this universe, and if Scout Comics is behind it, I'm gonna keep building it and try to see how many fairy tales I could actually reimagine.
I like that.
Yes,
where can people find the Kickstarter?
Kickstarter is you could search Grim Space on Kickstarter or any of my socials. I'm at Frank the Writer. So eventually, if you find me somewhere on the internet, you're bound to come across.
And we'll share it too, of course. But
yeah, we'll share links. But I always just go to Kickstarter and I just search your name, Frank Martin, TIN, and all your stuff comes up. So that's my recommendation.
Agreed.
Thank you,
Lauren. The burning questions. I know you're sitting here. You're like, all right, yeah, Pinocchio, but we really came here for Last Homicide.
Well, Pinocchio was a lot of fun, but the Last Homicide. So we had you on well over a year ago, and you had just had the one issue, and it left.
By the way, Frank, this is episode 150, so this is, I think, a milestone episode. I feel like.
Oh, milestone!
Welcome, 150. Episode.
Yeah, I have to look and see which one the first one you were on, because it's been a minute.
Yeah.
But so Pinocchio was very fun, but the Last Homicide, it ended with a cliffhanger, and you hadn't written the second one yet. So it was a bit of time. So when I picked up the second one and I started reading that ending, I was like, that was the last thing in the world that I saw coming. And I'm going to obviously be very vague for a reason, because it's only 2 comic books. So it's a quick read, but it's a lot of ups and downs and a lot of intense moments. And I love anything mafia. I love The Godfather. I love Sopranos. I love Donnie Brasco, all that stuff. So I thought this was a really cool little, detective crime family, and it was from the perspective of the detective, not from the childish gangsters, because that's all the gangsters are, is they're children with guns, in my opinion. They just want what everybody else has. They want to take everybody else's toys and be in charge. They want to rule the playground. I think that's why it's always fascinated me. So when we had you on, did you know how Last Homicide was going to end from the get-go?
Yeah, no, I written it. I wrote both issues before I started the artwork. So I'm not one of these, like, let's just write issue 1 and then figure out issue 2 later kind of people. I have to have everything outlined and planned.
Lost.
So I knew everything, how it was going to end beforehand. And I always wonder if if it's going to surprise people or if they're going to see it coming or they're going to be like, that's stupid, because a mystery really hinges on that mystery when it's finally revealed. It's kind of like a magician when the trick is cool, but once you figure out the secret, you're kind of like, I don't know if I'm really into it anymore. It's kind of the same thing. The mystery is suspenseful when you don't know how it's going to end, and once it ends, it might fall flat. So I'm glad to hear that you liked it.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I thought it was great.
Frank sitting there on our first interview, he's like, you have no idea.
Well, it was also a slow burn because I think I read them. It was probably a year in between. Because I know the second one came out a few months ago, and then I read it probably just a couple weeks ago. I had it like starred in my email, and I'm like, oh, I want to read this. And then I was like, wow, that was amazing.
Yeah, I think it launched last summer, August maybe. But yeah, I do for my 2-issue stories, I kind of do combine them into one. So if people miss out on the first one, they could get that kind of deluxe edition and just kind of bang it out in one shot. I thought it was interesting how you described gangsters, because the main gangster in this story is a mom. So she's like, she is kind of like a kid with a gun, but the murder that they have to solve is her kid. So she's coming at that kid with a gun mindset as a grieving mother. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic situation.
Yeah,
she's one of my favorite characters to write.
And the few times you see women in the mafia, like, you hear those real life stories, they always are the scariest. Because it's like,
have to be.
Yeah, for them to get to where they are, they have to be extra scary.
Yeah, so it was a very it was very fun to play in that world and to try to. I knew I was only going to do 2 issues, so I had to take all of my love of detective stories and mafia stories and murder mysteries and jam them all into one thing and get it over with quick. So it was fun to play it out.
Yeah. Do you have what's the next? Where are we going next?
What are we doing next?
Because I know you always have like a million things in the pipe in that genius brain.
So this is going to be my first year to try to do 6 Kickstarters. Last year I did previous 2 years I did 5 each. So I'm shortening my kind of break time to kind of squeeze in another one. My next one is a weird story. It's kind of like the Macabre Motel, because it's like weird and I just throw a bunch of random stuff at you. But it's I basically wrote like a story that I took all of my personal fears and anxieties and kind of put them into a haunted cabin and put a comic writer there that's going to experience them all. So
that sounds terrifying.
It's a little bit of a meta story. So basically the premise is a comic writer goes to a cabin for the night to try to get some work done, and the cabin's basically haunted. So all these weird stuff starts happening and it prevents him from writing. And all of the hauntings are very personal to me. So it's kind of like, it's one of the, I put out a bunch of comics that I wasn't quite sure how they were going to do, but they were more like personal passion projects. This is kind of one of those, in that I don't know how it's going to resonate with people, but I've sent it out to people and they've said, even though you could tell that this is personal, and even in the end, you find out that the character's name is Frank Martin. So it's a little bit of a meta story, but they said, even though it's personal to you, all of these fears and anxieties are kind of universal to a lot of people. They can relate to it. So it should be interesting to see how it goes. I would classify it as like a supernatural suspense horror thriller.
You said the word.
Supernatural. Drink.
Dude, I'm in the bag for that. That sounds awesome. I love a good horror comic, a good supernatural story. So that sounds awesome to me.
Yeah.
Well, and the meta thing is just, it always adds an extra level, and it's fun because it's like, the fact of the matter is we all know we're watching a movie or a TV show or reading fiction. So it's yeah, why not? Everybody always loves them when they do that. And then they do that in, I can't ruin it. Matt says, I'm finally watching Supernatural. So I'll stop talking.
They do it in Supernatural.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. And the thought of watching 10 seasons seems very daunting.
15
seasons. Forget it. I'm done.
Well, you're in for a luck because it's 15.
You know what? I love scrolling through Netflix or Hulu, and they're like, 1 season, 10 episodes, done. I'm in. I could totally handle this.
15 seasons is a commitment. Trust me. It's been years, 3 years, almost 3 years we've been doing this show, and she's been talking, and I'm like, all right. And then I don't know.
You got hooked pretty quick.
I guess, God dang it, now I have a 15-year commitment, not like or 15 season commitment, but you're right. It's funny. I'll be watching something and you get one season, 8 episodes. I'm here. Oh God, 15 with 22 episodes each. Mother of God.
Yeah, it's not a Netflix season with stupid 8
No.
No, it's 22.
We're talking
23
about true
episodes.
television seasons.
Like,
Well, season 3 is only like 15 episodes because remember that writer strike that happened back in like 2008?
yeah, that's true. That is true. So,
So,
yeah.
if somebody wanted to, go to your Kickstarter and check out your stuff, do you always have all of the stories available? How does that? Because I always wonder with the Kickstarters, I know there's usually an end date, but then you can still get some of the stuff later. Because I know you also have other ones, Ordinary Monsters, Pipe Cleaners, The Truce. I hadn't heard of that one. I noticed that today when I went to your page.
So yeah, what I try to do is Kickstarter has a cool add-on feature. So after you pledge, they list all the add-ons. I don't put everything on there. I try to kind of have it tangentially related to the theme. So if it's a horror story, I'll try to put all my horror stuff up there. If it's a sci-fi story, I'll try to put a bunch of sci-fi stuff up there. I feel it's not good practice to throw everything up there. You got to leave a couple stuff back for somebody to find something later on. But yeah, that's always an option. I put stuff on my website too, which is frankthewriter.com. So yeah, there's my stuff is always. And then if you message me online, say Frank, send me something, I could always do it that way. I'm easygoing.
And if somebody wanted to get The Last Homicide 1 and 2, that's available right now. And you said that's together.
Yeah. I don't know if that's anywhere, and I don't have that up anywhere because I'm trying to get a publisher to get into comic stores.
Oh, nice.
That would be interesting if I could pull that off. But yeah, again, I always when I order for a Kickstarter, I always have extra copies. So if anybody messages me, I could always send it to them directly.
Nice. Well, that's
just
awesome.
gotta ask.
All you gotta do. It's always a no if you don't ask people. That's how we live. I live my life a quarter mile at a time and a yes or no question at a time. But
and the Pinnochio one though that's running right now. And when does that the Kickstarter end on that one?
So it funded today, which is nice.
Nice.
And it ends next Friday, which is
the 20th. It ends the 20th. I know we've shared the link out again, but we're going to make sure we share it out and get this episode out so people can kind of check it and things like that. So is there anything else you want people to know about that particular story or anything you're working on before we...
It's amazing.
It is. I really enjoyed it. I personally enjoyed it a lot. I love a good space story. And then who doesn't love freaking Pinnochio, man?
Oh, I have one more question. We left off with Polar Paradox on a bit of a cliffhanger. Have you done the second one for Polar Paradox?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Polar Paradox. So Polar Paradox is tricky because I did a part 1 and part 2, and then I did a part 1 for a sequel, which was called Polar Paradox Equator's End. That was my previous. I think that was in October. That was the last one I did before this one. And so yeah, the Polar Paradox part 1 and 2 that ended on a cliffhanger, and then Equator's End ends on a cliffhanger, and then that part 2 should be coming sometime this year. So yeah,
we got some
and depending on how it does, we may do a third one to finish off a trilogy of Polar Paradox issues.
Ooh, and have you kept the same artist for those? Sorry.
Yes, that's a local artist. We've been partnering on it, which has been good, but we'll see how it does. I don't know if we're going to do a trilogy because Equator's End didn't do as well as the first series. So we'll see if part 2 manages to get a couple more backers.
All right, people, you know what to do. We are going to get a trilogy, and we're going to make this. We're going to manifest it. That's what we're doing this year. We're manifesting, and we're going to get part 2 to do excellent because that's a really good story, especially if you like all sorts of loopy, weird ocean life, but you're also like questioning your own existence at the same time and read it. So yeah, whenever that one drops, definitely let us know so we can spread the good word, the good gospel that is Frank Martin, the writer himself.
This is a book of Frank.
It is. But no, seriously, before we wrap up, go ahead, let everybody know where they can find you again and anything else that we might have missed that you want to push out to the fine universe.
My website is franktherwriter.com. All my social media stuff, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Frank the Writer. That's kind of me. I'm simple and easy. So, and yeah, message me if you are looking for something and you can't find it. it's always the easiest way.
Right on. Well, Frank, we really appreciate it. We can't wait to have you back because you already know you're coming back on. Whatever you got next, whatever you need next, come back on. We always love chatting. We love your stories. We never really truly know what we're getting just because.
I only do milestone episodes now, so it has to be number 200.
That's true. That's true. We'll see you in
Right.
50 episodes. So we
Yeah,
better,
probably like December.
we better start cranking things out. We'll see where we go, right? But seriously, thank you for joining us. Thanks for being a friend of the show. Everybody, make sure you go ahead, check out Frank's excellent work, and not only his work in the writing realm, but all the artists that are also supported and commissioned. Because more often than that, we forget about the artists as well. So support great comic book creators, especially in the indie world, and let's read some good stories together.
Sounds good.
Right on. Well, with that said, we will catch you guys next week. Couldn't tell you what we're talking about next week yet. I can't even think about what's happening tomorrow. So we'll cross that bridge and maybe surprise you. How about that for a cliffhanger, folks? And until next time, we will see you. Cheers.